insecurity in the U.S. since the pandemic is on track to become a crisis, and Black women are being affected the most by it. According to Eviction Lab, there were more than 434,000 evictions last year. So for some context to this, the eviction moratorium was in place for a large portion of the year, but the number of renters at risk of eviction as of January spiked to about 3 million and counting. And of those, Black women have the highest average of eviction filed against them at 6.2%, compared to white women at 3.4%. Now, that equates to 1 in 4 Black renters living in a place where Black eviction filing rates were almost double than that of their white counterparts. So joining us now is Akira Drake Rodriguez. She's an assistant professor of city and regional planning at the Stuart Weitzman School of Design at the University of Pennsylvania. She's also the author of Diverging Space for Deviance, the Politics of Atlanta's Public Housing. Professor Drake, great to have you with us. Thank you for joining us. So can you give us an idea of why evictions are so high for Black women specifically, and the short and long-term impact it's having on them and their families?
Sure. So Black women traditionally are tasked with a lot of the caretaking roles of both their immediate family, but also their extended family. And so what you're more likely to see is that these are the women who are going to be having to take in cousins, having to take in people who are experiencing their own economic precarity or housing precarity, in addition to their own families. As sort of the head caretakers, you also see that they're more likely to make these sorts of sacrifices. So you see Black women, and all women actually, but Black women in particular, because they have kind of less opportunity and less access, more likely to stay, for example, in substandard housing or expensive housing if it means that their child has access to a good school or they have access to a job opportunity. And so you kind of create these sort of cascading problems and issues when it comes to evictions, and that they are more likely to lose their job. They are more likely to have to travel further for work, increasing their economic precarity, and more likely to be the caretaker and taking on a lot of additional families into their household. So getting this eviction is this very sort of permanent stain on their record. It impacts their credit. It impacts their ability to find more housing. A lot of these Black women are more likely to experience bouts of homelessness as a result of these evictions. Their credit is less likely to remain intact after having some of these housing issues. So it's really, when we talk about intersectionality, it really is a prime example of how intersectionality works, right? They are less likely to be employed. They are making lower wages. They are in these substandard housing units. And these impacts are huge. As you can see, the psychological trauma, the difficulty, and, imagine getting turned down for housing opportunity after housing opportunity, economic opportunity. It can really, really start to have an impact on their mental health as well.
Sure, and their families as well, because I imagine they are also more likely to have children in tow, correct?
For sure. Yes, this is a very difficult problem.
So, Professor, according to that report by Eviction Lab that we talked about earlier, women in general are evicted more than men. So how do you think the Department of Housing and Urban Development could be, addressing this issue, especially for Black women, but for women in general?
I think it's really important to know about these causes of higher rates of eviction and really thinking about the full package that is required to house someone. It is not just the provision of a voucher. It's not just the provision of a subsidy. It is not just the provision of a single unit. It really is this sort of bundle of care, of transportation, of mental health supports, of physical health supports, the ability to have flexible housing. So often you are allotted housing based on the number of dependents you have, and people can wait on very long waiting lists, and suddenly the housing they're allotted is pretty much obsolete to their needs. So having responsive, flexible housing, having the wraparound services, which HUD does, they do a lot of social service wraparound support, but it needs to be so much more, particularly as the department does much more with vouchers and mobility solutions that place people out of their kinship networks and place people out of where they have their home base and their sort of support network. Those are the things that really make housing a home. And I think the more that HUD sort of understands that full bundle of what is needed to house someone properly, that will help with the solutions.
And Professor, what advice do you have for anyone who may be watching right now and facing eviction and not sure what to do? What resources could you point them to?
Definitely look into your local tenant association, look into your local fair housing center so they can provide you with the legal advice that is needed and connect you with the services and support that is available. There has been usually, if you kind of look into the eviction subsidies and moratoriums, there were usually nonprofits that were allocated and tasked with that. And there was a lot of capacity and institution building around sort of eviction prevention. And so definitely mobilizing and organizing, I think, is really critical. I think a lot of people feel alone in these and embarrassed about being evicted. And being in tenant associations, working with these resources and networks that were established when so many were facing eviction and before that foreclosure, I think is really important, again, with that mental health and that weathering that occurs. So really sort of being in community with others is really important at this time.
All right, Professor Akira Drake Rodriguez, we appreciate your expertise. Thank you.
This one I gotta go in first because this one really touched on. Because I'm not gonna lie.
Hey, y'all better get shots in. I'm about to go in.
Yeah. I'm not even smiling. It really brings inside of my heart because all my relatives are black. My friends are black. Especially me, I put honor and respect in a black woman. But let's keep it a buck. Let's keep it 100. The number one issue, and mind you, they did not say nothing at all, is having a motherfucking man in the house. They did not mention it at all.
Thank you.
They talk about careers, they talk about this and all the BS. But the number one issue, black women are why they facing eviction is not having a man in the house. If a man's in the house, there'll be lack of eviction. Right now, I think recently there's an article that just came out today. Kodak Black had to pay somebody rent. I think 28 people rent in Florida because it was way overdue. He paid it. Kodak Black and his community. So that's trying to show you that is the issue. I don't understand why these people won't say it. And I think they're afraid to say it. That one thing is a personal agenda against black men. It really is, because they should have mentioned that first. That should have been the number one thing, because every other race have men in the house. That's why their numbers so small. Black women is high because there was no man there. And remember, I told you guys on the podcast, and I told you it's going to come. There's going to come a day, black women going to get tired of that shit, and they're going to be like, you know what? I don't care if my man cheated on me. I don't care if he did me dirt. I got somewhere to live in my motherfucking head. And that's all I got to say on that.
Ronnie, I agree with you 1,000%. Where is your man at to help out with situations like that? If you have a man in the house, you'll be good. Everything will be fine. You don't need to worry about paying your rent, putting food in the house, pay bills. If you have a man who pay 100% or 50% or 25%, you don't got to worry about anything. What's wrong with that? And the news, and like I say, watching this news, they say nothing about, like I said, Ronnie said nothing about being a man. You need a man in the house so you can live comfortably, go out comfortably, think comfortably, relax comfortably. What is so wrong with that? And like I said, women need to start listening to us men and start listening to some of these women who don't mention men, who don't even mention having a man in the house. You need to start listening to the men again. You start listening to men again, you got nothing to worry about. You'll be protected, provision, all of that. This, I don't know what's the problem. We're gonna keep saying this till y'all get it right. Have the man in the house. And one more thing before I pass it to King, the pandemic is over. It's over. With these apartments, a whole, it's like, okay, y'all can, if you can't pay rent, okay, cool. We'll hold it, and then, like I said, you'll pay it later. Pandemic is over. They're not, renters are not paying no more. That's why rent's going up, because they want their money back. So women, get you a man. You ain't worry about anything. That's my take.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go up like this. From the dawn of time, most civilizations was not built on a welfare state. China, Korea, most of the Nordic countries, Norway, Greenland, Iceland. There's no such thing as these uh um help for single women. Majority of people are married. Put that fact into that. This is why in China they have these things where they bring their daughters and sons to the park to get them married off because they know the value of a family system in a household. Certain welfare systems cannot contain to take care of people for the rest of their lives. Food stamps, WIC, all these places, these things were not meant to, these things was to be supplementary to help people who were struggling families, even men within the family. But now these has been a constant backbone to raise families. That's another thing. We live in a day where feminism has brought into this point where right now that our black women are the most suffering from this. I don't know about the Hispanics. I don't know about the whites. I'm not in their community. I see from my eyes what's going on. Teaching your daughters and sons how to mate correctly, what it means to have kids, and marriage is a big component to stop what we're stopping now while we have a hemorrhaging welfare system here where it's not enough to go around. Black women are the most in retail. Black women are the most black women are the most that's on welfare. They didn't say black men. You notice this never include black men. We're not in the statistic because most of us, if we're not eating, we're out on the street. We're the largest that's on the streets and homeless, but we're not on welfare. Why didn't they say black men are the largest getting evicted from their house? I didn't hear anything. Why we're not in those statistics? You cannot blame us for this situation. Yeah, they are outliers, but the core fact is this: America cannot sustain a bunch of single moms and women forever. It wasn't meant to be that way. This is why the system is hemorrhaging. This is why, listen here, this is why there's not enough Social Security to go around. You know, y'all brothers know, and you can go, this is documenting this in China, Korea, and most of these Asian countries. Kids are important because the kids take care of the grandparents. The grandparents move in with the kids in these Asian countries to take care of. When you get old, it's an obligation of the Asian, the Indian family to take care of. We're not like that. We're pushing our family into homes, into retirement homes. It's nothing but single black women and some black men in there, I'm not going to lie, with nobody to take care of. Our issues is only getting worse here if you don't straight up your mother effing act. Little mama, stay away from the niggas with the Jordans. Get the niggas in the Clarks. I'm trying to tell you, if you don't know the value of family, marriage, and knowing who to have kids with, you're going to put yourself in the statistics.
Any final words on your own take?
No, I'm okay. I'm good.
But this is a problem, and I'm not gonna lie. I disagree with a lot of stuff Cameron Samuel said. You know, God rest his soul. But this one, he was right. He said pretty soon winter was coming, and there's gonna be a lot of people on the street, black women. He hit it right on the nail. I don't know how he got the information. I don't know if he saw it. I didn't see it. I think we were so blind to it. But he was right. Go ahead, Hakeem.
Do y'all brothers ever watch Atlanta Street Interviews? You ever heard of that guy?
Oh yeah, I saw it. Yeah, I've been watching it.
Majority of the people he interviewed are women.
Yeah, women.
Single women with kids. They're out here on the streets. I'm baffled. That's in Atlanta.
It's in LA.
Imagine what it is out in LA and in Miami.
Yes, it's terrible. It's terrible.
It's terrible.
Terrible.
It's real. I was saying he was right. I ain't gonna lie. The man was right, and I got it. But this what happened when the motherfucker, you so educated, but yeah, you're gonna be the main one on the street, just like the man. This is why you gotta like, share, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell on the right hand side. Because this topics like these need to be discussed, and that mind we find each other. One black people and all races, we find one another, but we've been so distracted, and all people that we do care about all living on the street. Thank you for tuning to KL Culture Radio. We over and out. Peace.
Peace.